Oh man, thanks for calling.
You're just like always in a podcast studio.
I'm always in podcast studio. Seems like it, especially this week. Um, yeah, I'm about to go on vacation, so I'm trying to get all those shows uh, that would normally be up, like, well, on vacation, well, in the can, so I don't have to worry about it. So I really
Sure.
appreciate you being on short notice. So,
Yeah, my
but
pleasure.
yeah, I was actually thinking about, like, hey, who have I talked to that I need to go back and talk to again? I was like, hey, I talked to Ben in November, and he said he would have news in December, and now, of course, it's like, like
Months later.
like June, and we're like, as usual, we're like too busy to slow down and catch up and see how things are going. So
Yeah.
yeah, so just if you can just tell the listeners what uh, um, what news you had in December. What was the great news, and what's been transpiring since then?
Golly, yeah. So in December is when this sounds ridiculous for me to say now as something that happened in the distant past, but that's when the Slack platform launched officially, and we released our open source toolkit for building bots called BotKit on that same day on December 16th. Way back when it seemed like we and maybe two or three other companies were the only people who thought that building bots was going to be something that was interesting to the world of technology. And a couple days after that happened, like in early January, The Verge and Fast Company both the same day published essays that declared that 2016 would be the year of bots, the year that bots began to kill the App Store and become the dominant paradigm of all software in the future, which seemed ridiculous
Yeah.
at the time. And and that was just the beginning of it, really. And the weeks after that, in February, Facebook opened their platform with 900 million users available to have apps built into Facebook Messenger. Twilio launched new stuff. Microsoft launched a bot building platform
Right.
a couple days before Facebook did. In the time since we launched and like since we last talked, probably near to 50 bot companies have launched
Oh wow.
and rushed into the market that, like I said, like that we once thought was basically ours.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Exactly. Like you thought like, oh, there's no one else who would want to make bots, probably, right? And you're in the space.
and we could own, yeah, we were looking at originally at like the huge wide open spectrum of things that we could do that would be useful and valuable to bot developers. And now, there are 5 competitive bot analytics tools and half a dozen hosting providers and half a dozen code-free development tools and things like that. So it's really been a very explosive growth of options and technology and apps that are launching. Although far more tools than apps still, like like tools for building apps rather than apps.
Okay. And then there's the tools, but it's also the platforms
Yes.
are like Slack, and then I just want to make sure, just clarify, just like, so a bot would it also reside on Amazon Echo, or is that a place for that, or other devices?
That's certainly some kinds of bots are going to live on like voice powered platforms. I think the nobody quite knows what the use cases would be, and it's certainly a similar but not exactly the same process.
Okay.
Um, the dialogue has evolved around this stuff dramatically over the last couple of months, and I mean it's continuing to evolve. For example, for a couple of months, everybody just told me that like AI was going to be the key thing to get right. We're going to need to like get a lot of more advances in AI and make AI simpler to use, and like
Right.
that was the sort of magic thing that was happening. And now couple months in, everybody's like, we were wrong about that. Like AI is sort of like a cool thing, but like it's not that important to the success of an app right now.
Right.
And it's actually still not available at the scale of like an app developer. So it's probably actually about clever scripting and like dialogue building.
Right. Yeah. And I felt like I read and heard those stories too, especially on, was it like NPR, about like AI is really going to take over. And I was just like, I'm not sure they were like rushing into the future of sci-fi and then looking backwards. And I was just like, no, like you don't need that level of sophistication. You just need a great UI. And that's another thing I want to ask you about is just, I've seen the death of web design articles now because it's all about conversational UI, conversational UX. Is that a thing that you've been hearing about? Is that, should I be afraid as a web designer?
I think a little bit. The way I see it is like it's essentially a next logical step beyond responsive design, where, if responsive design was telling us like we have to plan for every device and many different contexts, and like the context in which our content or services are being consumed is now an important influence on the design. Well, certainly the fact that 900 million people view the internet through Facebook Messenger is a similar type of signal. And what does that mean? It means that you build a channel for your same content and services, or through Facebook Messenger, which it doesn't. I don't necessarily think it takes away from the importance of having a accessible website, but in some cases it might. It absolutely might like replace the website for some kinds of things, and for some audiences. And I mean, I think that's the thing that one of the things that has come out in the conversation of the community recently is like, we're not building this for ourselves necessarily. Like, we're building it for the next generation of, or the like people coming up and who don't come from a background of like my email inbox and like browser, my collection of curated bookmarks and RSS feeds. Right. They're just used to like, I want to, is that restaurant open? Let me ask.
Right. Yeah.
And so.
Yeah. I could see where like you would ask the phone number of a restaurant if it's open right now.
Right. So. Are you open? What's the special? Can I place an order? Yeah. That kind of stuff. Simple shopping or simple searching.
Yeah.
The kind of stuff that's just like on a currently like website template stuff is probably going to just live in like bot templates, in a Facebook or whatever. But that doesn't mean like, it absolutely doesn't mean like the dearth of design.
No.
Or like the death of design. In fact, it just takes away a lot of the tools that you have, and you still have to design a really good experience. And now you have like only a few buttons, or or no buttons at all in some cases. Although basically now everybody has buttons.
Right. Yeah, I noticed. I don't want to get too far. I'm going to get back in a second. But yeah, you just released. There's buttons now in the development kit. So you don't go do too crazy by having a full-fledged web design, but it's just mostly like if else, or which options you want to pick from. So it's really simple, quick narrow down the input from a user. Okay. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean the Slack's launch today of their message buttons allows you to add up to 5 buttons into a message, and then in addition to that, you can like upon clicking the button, swap out those buttons for other buttons. So you can actually have like fairly sophisticated little sort of micro applications that live all inside one single message, which I find fabulous. The scenarios that kind of immediately come to mind for me are things like, let's say, let's say you like mention an address in the channel, and a bot can say like, oh hey, did you want me to add a map to that? And you click yes, and then like it swaps it out and the map is there, and there's like no evidence that the app was ever even there. right? Like it like sort of interjected itself when it needed to, took your command, and then just got out of the way, right? Like I can imagine all sorts of scenarios like that where it's like, you know, some process is going to like step through a couple things and then it's just going to leave the result there. And, you know, the work is done and it happened in the context of the conversation.
Oh, nice.
So I think that that's a really powerful and an exciting thing. And it shortcuts, you know, it takes a lot of the wind out of the sails of like, why did we need, you know, more sophisticated AI? Well, it was because, you know, a bot could ask a question and the user could say anything.
Yeah.
Well, now if you can just present them with like up to 5 options of what to say,
Right.
like hopefully your application is not more complicated than that, you know. It is after all like a micro app that lives in chat.
Yeah, I like the idea of micro apps. Pretty nice. But yeah, but I was thinking like even for conversational UIs, it feels like not websites, but like companies or organizations that have a website or whatnot, and they're trying to see if they would fit into a bot scenario. They would actually have to like, it's more of a content strategy and focus, right? Just so it's like, well, what content would people want of ours to deal with, you know? And so I think a lot of companies were like, well, we don't really need it, maybe, but some companies will, like restaurants and, you know, providers. So they just want, like, they want to sign up real fast for a service on the spot, you know, impromptu. And I really like the idea of ordering a restaurant just through like, texting the restaurant's, you know, phone number, just like having it delivered to you right away. That'd be totally awesome. And so there's a joke in there about talking to texting a restaurant's phone number and getting the PDF of the menu sent back to you. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or a whole service that translates your PDF menu into a bot menu.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's just waiting to happen.
Oh man, yeah. That'd be that'd be pretty awesome.
And I mean, this is honestly one of the kind of cool things about the bot phenomenon is that like basically any idea that exists out there for like web or apps could be a bot.
Yeah.
And like there's certainly like millions and millions of dollars being spent on like crappy PDF to website, like restaurant website generators or whatever, right? And it's like there's this whole, either those people expand into the bot thing or like somebody else comes along and does it. There's custom restaurant bots to be built. There's restaurant bot platforms to be built. There's restaurant bot platform building tools to be built. You know.
So, all right. Cool. Yeah, I think that it seems like it's just a wild frontier for doing a whole bunch of cool stuff. So it feels like the web design was back in the early '90s. It sounds like so.
It absolutely is, and you know, I was just at an event in the Bay Area a couple days ago, where like sort of the early leaders of the bot world have come together to like discuss things, and I was there for the web one, and this feels like the same kind of thing, absolutely. And also interesting to note is that a lot of the people are the same people.
Oh, really?
You know, like. Even if you take Stuart Butterfield from Slack, like he was around for Web 1.0, you know, the fight for web standards. He was around for Web 2.0, like web apps come at, you know, to fruition. Like he has fought through these, you know, and so was I, so was Chris Messina. Like these are people who like played, and as I looked around the room in the Bay Area, I was like, wow, like these are people in their like 30s, 40s, and 50s. Who are like involved in bots right now. It's not a whole lot of like kids, brand new, you know, not your sort of stereotypical startup scene. So I just thought that was interesting and like possibly a symptom of like the compressed timeline where it's like it went from, hey, like I know something about bots, like perhaps this is a thing, to like, are we already past the peak bot hype, you know, in like 6 months? So the people who have any grasp on it are the people who had some like, you know, precedent before.
Right. Well, those articles are already written with a new technology, just like, you know, like it hasn't been 6 months since XYZ technology was written. Okay, we have to make sure we write the it's past a prime article now. Publish that. But, yeah. That's my theory anyway. But cool. And then last we talked, you guys were planning a conference.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So what's the stats on that?
So it is live.
Okay.
Talkabot
Talk-
is our conference.
Is that
in,
Taco Bot? Like tacos?
Nope.
Or, oh,
Like it's like TA Talkabot.
okay.
Like talk about,
Okay.
but without a U.
Okay.
Talkabot. September 27th, 28th, and 29th.
Cool.
It's going to be 2 days of like main conference and a day of like get your hands dirty technical workshops.
Okay.
And it's here in Austin.
Okay.
And it's going to be really, really fabulous. We've got our first batch of speakers that we announced. Like, I'm so excited about. It's ridiculous. But the founders of ActiveBuddy are going to come and give a talk. And these are the guys. These are the only people who have ever had like a commercially successful chatbot, and it was 15 years ago. And they like built bots for Radiohead and things like that. So they've got crazy stories about what they did, and how they built it, and their success and failure. We also have people who are actively engaged in a day-to-day process of building bots. One group is like these two young people who are building like a journalism experience or like a sort of media experience where their bot will text you politics news every day, and you can kind of converse about politics with their bot, which is called Purple. Super cool. So they're going to sort of do like a technical and like process talk. And then we also have people from a company called Pullstring who like built the Hello Barbie, which is, has like thousands of things that it can say, and it has like an AI system behind it, but it's all manifested in like a toy Wi-Fi Barbie. And so similar, they're going to have like an engineer come out and also a writer come out and talk about how they work together to create like this AI toy. So super cool stuff like that. And we're selling tickets right now at a discount, and also collecting submissions from the community. So if there are people out there who want to come and give a talk, or participate in a workshop, or even do something like demo their bot on stage, like as like a sort of open mic thing. Like we really want everybody to come. People from the AI community, people from the robot community, all that stuff. Like we're trying to get everybody who's interested in one place together so that we can like make some decisions as a group and sort of create shared resources and assets and things like that.
All right, that sounds awesome. So, like, it sounds like you're having a wide pool. You've opened the nets pretty wide for people to speak. When's the submission deadline for people?
I believe the submission deadline is July 30th.
All right. So it's soon, but not too
Yes.
too soon. But it's not too far away.
Days.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
better not put it off any longer than we have. Cool.
Yeah, that's right.
And discount tickets are till they sell out, or till some date, like early bird. Or something?
I believe it's also to the end of July.
Okay. Cool. Well, cool, man. Well, I'm thinking about going. So
I hope so.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, I want to see where the next wave of web design is going. So that's great.
Yeah. It's going to be great, and we also have a killer opening party venue. So, if for no other reason.
No other reason is necessary. As a conference organizer, I know how important that is. You have to make sure it's really good. Cool. All right. Awesome. Any other news? I think if anyone listening needs any excuse to come to Austin, I think this is a good excuse than anything else. So.
Yeah, and it's also going to be 2 days before the ACL festival. So, like, if you really want to like splurge, what you do is you come down for our workshop and then 2 days of conference. Then you take 2 days to recover, and then you spend the weekend rocking out to
Radiohead,
LCD Sound System, and Radiohead. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Well, you really sold it there. I think that was a great job. It's like Radiohead's your closer, that we're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool, man. That's awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for spending time.
My pleasure.
Giving us this update, and best of luck. I'll see you in September.
Anytime.
Cool.
All right.
Awesome.
Bye. Thanks.